Welcome back, Math 8. Please get comfy, find a place in where you are and sprawl out, or find a place that you're comfortable in. Make sure you have a piece of paper and a pencil, and let's get ready to solve some math. The first question I want you to answer on that piece of paper is, why is it important to be able to write words? Write in those words what those math steps are. Why is it important to write in words what those math steps are that you use? Today we're going to continue on with solving multi-step equations, and this time the variables are going to be on both sides of that equation. You're going to help others through those written explanations. Those explanations, when you write them, they are meant to help others understand. And if you write them to help others understand, what you're really doing is solidifying that you understand. Okay, so here we have an equation. Negative 12 times the quantity x minus 12 equals negative 9 times the quantity of 1 plus 7x. Before we begin, let's talk about the terms that are here. And a term is something that is separated by a plus sign or an equal sign. So we can see right here that we have this negative 12 times x minus 12. And on the other side, we have this negative 9 times 1 plus 7x. Now, these are their own terms because nothing is separating them except parentheses. And we know that parentheses means multiplication. So the first thing we're going to do on both of these is we're going to distribute that number in front of the quantities to each term, there's that word again, inside the parentheses. That means that inside the parentheses, we have two terms. We have an x and we have a negative 12 on this side. And over on the other side of the equation, we have a 1 and we have a positive 7x. These two terms are separated by the negative sign, and these two terms are separated by the positive sign. We also call those signs subtraction and addition. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to distribute negative 12 to the x as well as the negative 12. And we're going to distribute the negative 9 to the positive 1 and the positive 7, 6. Now that we have distributed, you can see that we have negative 12x plus 144 equals negative 9 minus 63x. This confuses us a little bit because we can't isolate x when we have a variable on both sides of the equal sign. So our goal is to get our variables on one side of the equation and our constants, that means just our numbers, on the other side of the equation. So I'm going to look at that coefficient, that's the number in front of the variable. I'm going to look at that coefficient's value on either side of the equal signs. And I have a negative 12 and I have a negative 63. The one that is farthest away from 0 is that least amount. That negative 63 is the least amount. And what I want to do is I want to take that term minus 63x and I want to put it on the other side of the equation. I can do this by making it 0 on that one side and adding it to the other side. And I can make that 0 by adding 63x to both sides of the equation. Okay, to summarize what I did, I have distributed the numbers outside the quantities. I have then looked at the coefficients where my variables are. I chose the one that's the smallest, and I want to use that to move it to the other side. The opposite of subtracting 63x is adding 63x. I then went ahead and did the math. That negative 63x plus 63x, that becomes a 0. That is why we don't have to write it anymore. I then just did the math. I have 12 bad x's and I have 63 positive x's. So when I put those in the same room, the positive 63 wins by 51. I now have a two-step equation. This should make your heart smile because you should know what to do now. We're going to go ahead and circle the no touch. And now we know we only have two more inverse operations to do to get x all by itself. From this area of no touch, I want you to notice that we only did two steps. We subtracted the 144 from both sides, and then we divided by 51 on both sides. We now have that x equals -3. What I want you to do at this moment is pause the video and write in words how it was that we got from one step to the next. How did we get from one color to the next color in solving mathematically? Remember, solving equations are awesome because you can always take the answer and plug it into the original equation, do the math, and see if it really does equal what it says it should. For our second problem, I want you to go ahead and write it down on your paper, pause the video, identify the terms and what is happening to those V's, and make a plan of attack. I then want you to write only in words how it is that you would solve this equation. Please don't do the math first. Try and make the plan only in words. Pause the video and do that now. I'm giving you a hint and highlighting the different terms. Maybe that helps you think about what your plan of attack would be. Remember, you are just writing the steps. Don't do the math yet. I started my plan of attack. You can see that I want to distribute the 6 to the 6, I wrote x, it should be v, to the 6v and the 6. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite what's left. Then I'll decide which variable to move and to use the inverse operation to get there. And then I'm going to rewrite what's left. I wonder what I could do after that. I'm thinking if I have my variables on one side, I should probably do something with those numbers to get them to the other side. How would you write that in words? And then, how would I get rid of the number that's attached to the variable? Write that as well. Take a moment, write the rest of the steps. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. I wrote those steps and I had a hard time visualizing. So what I did was I did the math right next to those steps that I wrote. Did that make sense to me? Was I writing it clear enough that I understood? If I wasn't, I would change things. And you notice that I actually changed my 6x to 6v because I did catch that. I now have 30v plus 36 minus 5 equals 1. So I just finished learning that I can combine like terms. My 36 and my -5, they don't have any variables. So they're just constants. That's what we call those. And our constants can be added or subtracted just fine to combine. So I'm left with 30v minus 31 equals 1. Well, now that I rewrote what's left, I should be able to sigh. I have an area of no touch, which means I am left with two inverse operations to get v by itself. I no longer am going to do this for you. Pause the video and solve for v. In this last problem, a learner did a lot of really nice organized work. However, there is a mistake that happened. I need you to find that mistake, box it, highlight it, do something about it that's really obvious that you know that that's the mistake. I then need you to correct it. And then when you correct it, that means that you are solving for x. You are finding what the x value really is. So I'm letting you know right now that x does not equal 1/2. When you have it corrected, take a moment, put it back into the original equation, and see if the equation is still true. When you are done with that, you are done with the video. So I hope that you understand that this only has one extra step. You are using everything that you have done before. You are just now moving variables to one other side, and we do that by either adding or subtracting. Then you find that you still have the same multi-step equations you've already been doing. So I hope that you're comfortable. Take care.